In the depths of the night, we're the kings of the game. It's that gang flow through the highs and the lows. We rise from the shadows, let the darkness expose. From the streets to the throne, we let our truth show. You know the vibe, you know the code. It's the gang flow.
Most people think heroes are born special, chosen, gifted. We don't believe in that. In Phenom Comics, heroes are forged through pain, failure, fear, and choice.
And today we're breaking down what that actually means.
Welcome back to the official Phenom Podcast. I'm Mike Otis, founder and CEO of Phenom Comics.
And I'm Gabby O, creative assistant and co-host.
And if you're new here, this podcast is where we talk heroes, villains, world building, and what it really takes to build an indie comic universe from the ground up.
And today's episode is one of the core philosophies behind Phenom Comics.
Heroes are born, they're forged. Now, we're about to get right into this. One of the biggest problems with modern hero stories is that a lot of them skip the struggle.
They start powerful, confident, fully formed.
And that's entertaining, but it's not always relatable, you know? So my thing is this: being chosen versus choosing, you know what I mean? You know, like, I guess if we're thinking about it in a way where, now in some aspects for the comic book world, when we're talking about chosen and choosing, because in some comics they talk about how some characters are destined to be who they are. Like, you have some people who actually have a fortune to see these individuals be chosen to be this person, or, you know what I'm saying, something like that. Like, another prime example where you say choosing, right? You got individuals who choose, you know, like I could say Shazam or Miles Morales and, you know, Into the Spider-Verse. Prime example. Once it got to the second movie or whatever, I guess, can we say that that's chosen? Because he got bit by the spider in the first movie, right? But if you remember from the movie, the second one, that spider was not from his universe. It was supposed to bite the Miles Morales in the universe. He got trapped in the last scene of the movie, in the second movie. Am I right or wrong on that?
Yeah.
You know, so that's where that comes into play. And then we have to, you know, and then what's power without consequence? You know what I'm saying? You know, feels hollow. Audience connect more with struggle than perfection. You know what I mean? Which is reasons why, you know, if you really think about it, it's reasons why people love Spider-Man more than a person can say, not taken away from characters like Batman or Superman, but it's a lot of reasons why a lot of people like myself, you know what I'm saying, gravitate more towards Marvel than I do DC. Because if you really think about it, Spider-Man is more relatable. I would even say that the X-Men is more relatable, you know what I'm saying? And if anybody can do what the hero does, then being the hero doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. A hero that never fails. There's no tension, no fear, no growth. Like, nobody's perfect.
Right.
Even Superman has a weakness.
Right.
And, you know, when you talk about the chosen versus choosing, I would say Spider-Man was chosen, Batman is choosing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you're a billionaire. Go get some therapy and get over it.
Some people will try to hang you for that. But
I mean,
that. You
it
know
is
what I'm
what it
saying?
is. Realistically,
Yeah.
you're a billionaire. Get some therapy, get over it. Spider-Man had no choice. You know, he lost his parents twice.
Yeah. his Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we never really got into his mother and father, so you know,
Right.
if you know the original story, you know,
Yeah, I mean, and then even if you're just following the movies, like the recent Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland, he lost his parents twice.
yeah. Man,
He
honestly,
lost everybody.
you know, saying that, yeah, I ain't even really think about that in that way. You know what I'm saying? Because it's true. And again, he's a regular kid, poor. You know what I'm saying? From the like, if you see how he was in a building, wasn't that damn near the projects?
No,
He was.
no, just New York. No,
I'm just saying how he walked in and you got that little ass apartment that you
everything
in.
in New York was like.
You know what I'm saying? Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense, man. But I'm just saying. But regardless,
I wouldn't even say 3 times because he got close to Tony Stark, and he lost him too.
true, man.
And then he lost all his friends.
Lost all his friends. Damn, damn. You know
So
what?
it's like, Bruce Wayne, he lost his parents,
Yeah,
but he still had Alfred. He still had a lot of money.
true.
He still had his home.
Yes.
He never had to, bounce around or go and adjust to a new place.
Yeah.
He never had to worry about being the outcasted kid because you're Bruce Wayne. Everybody wants to be your friend.
Exactly.
You know?
And that's true. And some people hated you because you were rich.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? They feel like, dude, you good. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you lost your parents, but bro, you set for life. You ain't gotta worry about where your next meal coming from. You ain't gotta, you know what I mean? It's stuff like that. And I love Batman. Batman is an iconic fictional character.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But of course, again, you're going to be more relatable to Spider-Man. You're going to love Spider-Man more than you do Batman. Now, you love the darkness and what Batman can do, but Spider-Man was a teenager. He got bullied in school. He was the geek. He was the one that didn't get the girl. You know what I mean? You know, like for real, he got. Did I mention bully? He got bullied. You know what I'm saying? It was like it's like that.
Yeah.
He ain't had no rich parents, and then like you just said, he didn't even have his mother and father. He had his Uncle Ben and his Aunt May until Uncle Ben got killed. Then he had his aunt. It's his aunt.
And then she died.
And then eventually she ended up dying. So it was like, you know what I mean? It's a sad ordeal, man, when you really think about it. It's all bad, man.
And then his best friend became his worst enemy.
Man, shh. Listen. That's crazy. But
Definitely chosen.
you know what I mean? Yeah. But anyway, at Phenom, a hero isn't defined by their powers.
They're defined by what they endure.
Yeah. So a Phenom hero is someone who suffers loss, faces fear, makes the wrong choice, lives with the consequences, and still chooses to stand back up.
And sometimes they don't even want to be a hero.
That's important. Reluctance creates realism. You know? So we have to get on the trauma shapes decision making. We have to get into that. Trauma shapes decision making. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
You know?
That's real life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, thinking like just hitting that says a lot, man, because we all been there. This ain't even got nothing to do with heroes at this point. For real, man. Like seriously, it's not even. It's like, man, we like when you've been through so much, man, and you do have trauma, you have to think about the consequences, the way you live your life. You have to think about the choices that you make, whether or not you're going to let your trauma define you as for you being angry at the world, or you use that trauma and you use it to learn and be better than what was done or what happened to you that caused such an issue, a problem in your life that causes such, leaves so much of a scar, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And that was the um reason why with my characters in Phenom is that building them from the ground up and knowing that they do have traumas and everything. Prime freaking example. Night Reaper, Michael Brooks. He's dealt with loss, failure. You know what I mean? For those who do not know, Michael Brooks, again, he served in a special forces unit called the Black Flag. And not only that, before he was captain of the Black Flag Special Forces unit, he was a part of the Awan Madal Sadida. So if you have not been on our website, phenomcomics.com, you can go into the bios of the characters and you'll actually understand. You go to Michael Brooks and you'll understand what Awan Madal Sadida is. Awan Madal Sadida means the Black Claw. That is an ancient African shadow, unit in Africa. That's almost like the League of Shadows, League of Assassins that was ran by Ra's al Ghul, and a little bit of a mix of that along with Wakanda. So it's a difference, and we're gonna get into that more often. It's gonna be more that's gonna be involved with the Black Claw, so that way you guys understand. But going back into what I was saying was Mike had to make a decision once he came home. After leaving the military, him and Maria both end up meeting each other in the military, and they both wanted to change their lives and have a life together. And once they came home, what happened? Mike, like the whole point of Maria and Mike were to start a family, to get out and away from the killing, to get away from the drama, get away from the trauma. But the death of his mom was part of the trigger. And as and what I've mentioned before, as a man, we protect our loved ones. And when we feel we can't protect our loved ones and everything, we have a certain type of guilt and regret, and we kind of put it on our shoulders that we weren't there to do so. We weren't there to protect those that we care for the most. And especially once, what happened to Maria. Now, if you understand the page of, if you've read Night Reaper Origins, which is out right now on phenomcomics.com, you can download Night Reaper Origins right now for physical copies. Also for you can buy for physical copies and digital right now for you to understand the story. But the point that I'm getting to is, prime example, when I wrote Night Reaper Origins, and after the death of his mom, let's be honest. Now, if I ask you, Gabby, would have made sense if, when Maria told Mike, after everything that happened, if Maria told Mike that Brenda wanted to go out, and Mike was okay with it, and he said, just be careful. Do you think with everything that ended up happening, would have just been better if he just said, no, I'm not comfortable with it?
Of course.
And you knew what happened in the story.
Yeah.
Now that could have been wrote in, where Maria, Mike could have sat up here and told Maria, like, you know what, it's still fresh from the death of my mom and the issues that's going on with the gangs. Would it have been more relevant for Mike to sit up here and just tell Maria, no, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah, but realistically, it goes back to what you said. Trauma is what shapes the decision making, and he would never have become Night Reaper had he not dealt with all of that trauma at once.
Yeah.
Just like Batman wouldn't have become who he is because with his parents dying, and obviously Spider-Man again was chosen because he was bit by a spider, but his Uncle Ben dying was what made him decide to help people.
Yeah.
And protect, his city.
Yeah. That's true.
So obviously Night Reaper is more bent on vengeance.
Yeah.
But it still was, what happened to her that made him become Night Reaper.
But then when you also think about it, if we're still talking about decision making, Michael could have literally just try to let the law do their job when the situation happened with Maria. The gangs is in the city. The gangs are in the city. So it could have just been Mike just not trying to get back into that. He could have had let CPD, the police department, handle that.
Of course.
Instead of him taking it on himself.
Yeah, but most people who have been in any type of law enforcement or the military are not going to wait for the police to do their job in a city that's built on corruption after they've already lost their mother.
Yeah. So Mike has a valid crash out.
Of course.
Because shoot, this is supposed to be your firstborn child. You and your wife's supposed to be starting a family. She gets shot trying to protect her friend. And there's that guilt again. Because now you're thinking to yourself, I should have just said no. Because I knew I wasn't feeling right behind it. I should have said no. I should have sat up there and said next time. I should have said next time. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is why we say, well, heroes carry scars. You know what I'm saying? Heroes carry scars, physical or emotional. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what that is. You know what I'm saying? And that's true. Like, man, it's a big deal. Flash is another example. You know how many times this dude tried to go in the past and save his mother from being killed? He had the power of the Speed Force. When he found out that it was Reverse Flash that actually killed his mom, because Reverse Flash is that dang on demented, you know what I'm saying? He, and jealous and hateful towards Flash. He went in the past before Flash became Flash to kill his mom. And once, Flash decided, once he got the Speed Force and he had the ability to go into the future or to go into the past, every time when he had a chance, he knew it wasn't right, but it was his mom. His father ended up getting blamed for the death of his mom. So all that just unraveled to just be messed up. You know what I mean? So, and this is where power doesn't, remove fear. It magnifies responsibility. Now, this is where we talk about Spider-Man, where his Uncle Ben told him, like, once he ended up, like, he didn't know that he had the power. But we're going back to what you were saying was when he finally decided to protect people. His uncle told him one of the most famous iconic lines in superhero history was, with great power comes great responsibility. Like, you have the ability, you have, everything that you have, but you know what I'm saying? And in some cases, when you have the power, you don't have fear. You don't have fear, but it doesn't remove it, because you still have to think about the people that you're putting in danger. You still got to think about what you can do. that can cause fear or anything like that. You know what I mean? And this is where it magnifies responsibility. That's why that line was said to Peter Parker before he actually became Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. So if you have something like that, boy, that's just what it is. You know what I mean? So being a hero should cost you something, right?
Yeah.
It should cost you something.
Well, something I love about Phenom Heroes is that the fear doesn't disappear.
Exactly. You know, fear becomes fuel or a breaking point. You know, if we're talking, you know, fear of loss, fear of becoming the villain, fear of not being enough, that's where we come back to Night Reaper. That's where we come back to Night Reaper. Because one thing about Night Reaper is what? His biggest thing is putting fear into the underworld, into his enemies, into people to be scared. And you use that as fuel to try to make your, he tried to make his city a lot safer by installing that fear, installing the things that, causes, people to think twice. You know what I'm saying? It was like in the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. If you remembered at the beginning, when he was narrating, he was had a narration, and it was discussing where like everybody was doing stuff that was bad, but every time somebody looked in the shadows and everything, people the criminals got scared because they kept thinking that maybe he was in the shadows. Because and that's when they think twice and be right there like, oh man, I don't even know. Oh shit, let me go and get away from here. I don't feel right. You know what I mean? And again, going back to Night Reaper was one thing about the story that I decided to want to do, and then moving forward, when we talking and discussing Night Reaper, yes, he does use fear as fuel to scare and traumatize his enemies, the villains, and everyone that's around. But you also have to get to a point where it can also be a breaking point as well. And the reason why I say that is because when Night Reaper decided to start, like, mind you, if you read, like, again, you read the story of Night Reaper, it is based off of him doing what? Revenge, right? It's him basically going on a tear to get to the big boss. So it's almost like you take out the leader, nobody else is going to fight. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of them situations where it's like, I got to get to the big boss. Let me take him out, because the reason why the streets are the way that they are is because of this dude or this person. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that, So, and it's a breaking point, and this is where we talk about, what I'm saying, where fear can become a fuel. Going back to the origin of Michael Brooks becoming Night Reaper was simply because of the deaths of his mom and his unborn child, his wife getting shot, almost losing his wife as well, along with the death of his mom and the unborn child. You know what I mean? So it's a big deal, but I don't know what else to say on that part.
Well, Night Reaper could have a lot of heroes and things right, and sometimes they almost do.
Yeah, and at that moment, that hesitation is where character is focused. If that makes sense. Right? So, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the action in spite of it. So that's where it is more than anything. So let me say that again. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in spite of it. And so the difference between a hero and a villain in Phenom is razor thin.
Sometimes it's just one decision. Villains often start with the same pain. Heroes restrain themselves. It's control versus indulgence. With everybody handles things differently. You know, um, Night Reaper, instead of he's basically an anti-hero.
Yes.
Not necessarily a villain. He could have went full on villain. He could have just started taking out everybody. But he's going after specifically who the problem is in this city. Who's, corrupting this city.
Right.
Who's in charge of the people who basically destroyed my life.
Yeah. You know what? And since you said that though, you know what that reminds me of? Naruto.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
You telling me Naruto ain't have every right to crash out? I promise you, if it ever got to a point where in an alternate universe where the Leaf Village did Naruto the way he did, he would have destroyed that entire Leaf Village. He would have been a straight villain. He would have been a dog. Because look, the first time I watched Naruto, man, I was mad. Like, how the hell are you an adult and y'all treating this baby like this? You know what I'm saying?
A literal child. And it'd be different if he knew why people treated him the way they did.
Yeah.
Like with Sasuke, he knew that
was the third Hokage's fault.
He knew that his brother basically killed off his entire clan. He didn't know why, but he knew he did it.
Yeah.
Naruto had no idea who he was, where he came from.
Yeah.
He didn't know his parents. He didn't even know how they died.
Yeah.
He didn't even know that his parents were the reason why the village was saved.
Yeah. And he was treated. He was just, I can't even say.
I mean, he could even be, considered responsible for saving the village.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because his body as a child, it was sealed the non-tail.
Yeah, because what if he wasn't born a Jinchuriki?
True.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that wasn't cool. So that's where we come into versus, control and everything, and as for it, I mean, look, decision making is a mug, and this is where, where I say a villain asks, why shouldn't I? A hero asks, what happens if I do?
Yeah, and that question changes everything.
You know what I mean? It does. You know what I'm saying? So this philosophy shapes every story we tell.
Yeah, and it means the heroes you meet now won't be the same ones later.
Yeah, facts. They'll evolve, break, grow, sometimes fall. You know what I'm saying? We don't write perfect heroes. We write forged ones.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share.
And tell us in the comments, do you prefer heroes who struggle or heroes who dominate?
Next episode, we flip the script.
Because villains make the story.
Welcome to Phenom.